Welcome to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and during this series, I'll be interviewing various thought leaders, wellness experts, and humans on how they practice sustainable self-care and mindfulness. We'll get real and raw, talk about the light and the shadow side of self-care and mindfulness, and how we can actually stay centered amid the chaos and the hustle and bustle of our modern day world. So settle in and get centered. This podcast episode is brought to you by Centered in the City, a virtual on-demand self-care and mindfulness platform with over 200 different meditations, journaling prompts, nourishing recipes, and Pilates flows, all designed to support you feeling calm, focused, and energized as you live your life in this modern day world. For more information, head on over to centeredinthecity.org and claim your 7-day free trial. Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast. Today's solo episode is going to be short, yet very sweet and deep. As I continue this summer slowdown series, I want to offer this practice around acceptance. And what do I mean by acceptance? I know I used to have a really hard time with this word, and it's funny because when I talk about it in some of my workshops or bring it into my coaching sessions, I know some of my ambitious, driven clients also have the same response that I had. And so just even notice your relationship to this word acceptance as I share it. When I first heard this word, I had this feeling of like, what? Acceptance feels like losing. Acceptance feels like settling. I'm a New Yorker. I don't settle. I want the best of the best, and I'm going to get it, and I want to strive. And acceptance just felt like a yucky, dirty word. But the true definition of acceptance that I hold and that has really resonated with me is one where acceptance is this idea that we get to accept, embrace this moment just how it is. So we don't have to make it right, wrong, good, or bad. We don't have to let that judgmental or analytical mind get stirred up to create some sort of story around this moment or this event. We just get to accept it as it is. And acceptance has so much power. When we can accept the moment, we don't struggle with reality. We're not fighting this uphill battle. And for me, when I really realized that, that's like, oh yeah, can I just embrace this moment as it is and not create this box it needs to check, this judgment of good, bad, right, wrong. It just is what it is. Like right now, I get to accept it's raining. I can't deny that it is raining. And when I get to accept that it's raining and gray out, there's so much more ease in my present moment experience. I'm not struggling and saying, oh, I really wish it was sunny out, or I really wish it was warmer out. It's like, yep, right now the weather is just like this. This practice of acceptance is life-changing if you allow it to be. And to be very real and transparent, it is hard. It is a constant practice for myself to accept that ordering this chicken dish came out the way it did if it wasn't that good, and to accept, yep, that's how it is right now, and not have this impulse to want to change it or send it back or complain about it, right? Which can be so present in me and my conditioning. And so just accept, have gratitude for the chicken that's on my plate, and recognize it's just like this, and get to enjoy it for what it is and let go of the rest. Accepting people in our lives just as they are is a huge practice. We are conditioned and again taught by society and our upbringings and Hollywood and marketing that people should be acting certain ways or parents should be this role, or friends should show up in these ways, or this is what a partner should do, or a coworker should do, right? We create these stories around people and these expectations. And when sometimes they miss the mark or they don't show up how we wanted them to be, fighting with that reality, that expectation, that want can be such a waste of energy. And so this isn't me saying when we practice acceptance, we get to drop all of our boundaries and drop all of our requests and drop all of our needs. Like, hell no. We need those things in our life. But there's such a gift when we can practice acceptance, that there's just the sense of us coming back to the present moment, coming back to reality. And when we come back to reality, that's where we get to make changes and choices from. We can't choose from these stories or these expectations. And so coming back to the present moment and accepting that person or life just as it is, even if we don't like it, even if it's really hard or heartbreaking, that is our work. Because from that moment of acceptance is really where everything else can shift. So we have to have awareness, right, of what's happening, and then we get to accept it. And that is like, I don't have to fight. I don't have to swim upstream. I don't have to try to white knuckle or struggle against this. Acceptance is also a really powerful practice in embracing this idea of rest, of restoration, of restoring, of renewal. Because when we can just accept our energy levels, accept our capacity, accept where we are in our life, in our place, in our space, when we can accept all of the things, it then is like, oh, yeah, I don't have to put more weight in my backpack. I don't have to keep resisting and pretending I don't know what's there. We just get to be with what is. And there is so much freedom when we can arrive there. I promised I'd keep this episode today short and sweet, yet very deep and powerful. So I want to share with you a poem that my friend Janine sent me. And actually, Janine was on the Centered in the City podcast, and I'll link the episode we did together around loneliness in the show notes. And this is a poem by Aurea, Mountain Dreamer. And these words come from the prelude in her book, The Dance. What if there is no need to change? No need to transform yourself into someone who is more compassionate, more present, more loving, or wise? How would this affect all the places in your life where you are endlessly trying to be better or different? What if the task is simply to unfold to become who you already are in your essential nature? Gentle, compassionate, and capable of living fully and passionately present. What if the question is not, why am I so infrequently the person I really want to be? But why do I so infrequently want to be the person I really am? How would this change what you think you have to learn? What if becoming who and what we truly are happens not through striving and trying, but by recognizing and receiving the people and places and practices that are for us the warmth of encouragement we need to unfold? How would this shape the choices you make about how to spend today? What if you know that the impulse to move in a way that creates beauty in the world will arise from deep within and guide you every time you simply pay attention and wait? How would this shape your stillness, your movement, your willingness to follow the simple impulse to just let go and dance? Just allowing those words to land. Maybe you want to rewind and listen to them again and just notice what comes up for you. For me, when I hear these words, it's this deep permission to accept just as I am, that there's nothing that needs to be fixed, there's no striving that needs to happen, and that there's permission to just embrace all of the natural, beautiful elements that are inside of me, that are inside of you, and how freeing it is to just know that. It's not something outside of us that we need to be catching like butterflies, but it's already inside of us. And we just get to give ourselves permission to let that light inside of us shine, to let ourselves just dance and embrace all the aspects of us. And this is such a courageous act because we live in a world that is constantly telling us we're not good enough, or we need more, or we need to look like this, or we need to be fixed. And just coming back to this practice of acceptance, accepting this body, accepting this mind, accepting our past, and knowing that when we come back to acceptance, we come back to the present moment. And when we're in the present moment, that's where we can tap into all of this innate goodness that is inside of us already, all of our strengths, all of the beautiful elements of our being. And when we can tap into that, that's where we can let ourselves thrive, where we get to just live, letting go of the comparing, the despairing that happens, letting go of the not good enough, letting go of all of the gunk that builds up in our mind and our body. Personally, the last 7 months have been really challenging in my life for various reasons, and I got some really painful feedback, some feedback that rocked me to my soul, that really made me question, who am I? How am I showing up? And through a lot of introspection, a lot of work with my coaches, with my therapists, right, with the whole community of people that help us, right? It's hard to do this thing called life alone. And so leaning on these resources that I feel grateful to have in my life to really clear some of the cobwebs and come back to this place of deep acceptance. Because there was a moment where I felt like I had to change all of who I am because of this really intense feedback. And instead of feeling like I have to change, it's this level of acceptance that has really offered some healing, as well as energy and capacity to move forward, to think about how I want to be showing up and what does that get to look like. And again, when I accept, I have this freedom to come into the present moment and access my true nature, my essence. I welcome you to explore, where can this practice of acceptance support you in your life? Maybe it's accepting, wow, I'm really unhappy in my job right now. And how freeing it is to fucking just say that out loud and to own that for yourself. Maybe you've been resisting it and struggling with that truth for so long. Maybe accepting that this is how the relationship dynamics are going to be. It's not going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. And this is how it is. And can I accept that this is how the dynamic is? And with that sense of acceptance, there's less struggling. There's less being in this delusional mind of what could be or should be, but we're connected to what is. Or maybe having acceptance with your body. Like, wow, my body is like this. Maybe you notice you're still holding some baby weight, or you notice your body has shifted or changed as you've gotten older. And just accepting the body is like this right now. We don't have to beat her up or make her wrong, or something's wrong with her for being the way she is in this moment. But we just get to accept, and how freeing and nurturing and loving that is to the body, because she's perfect just as she is. So as I bring this episode to a close, I again just welcome you to think about, where can acceptance support you in your life? Share with me on Instagram at OneWade. Feel free to reach out in the link in the show notes. Let me know. I would love to hear where you're bringing this lens, this care, this touch of acceptance in your life, and what you notice unfolds when you do. You can, of course, also leave me a voicemail if you head on over to centeredinthecity.com and click the little banner that says send voicemail. That will leave me a little note sharing how this episode resonated for you. I'd love to hear. Thanks again for being here. And if you found this episode useful or insightful, please take a moment to share it with somebody you care about. And if you feel doubly inspired, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast. It helps so much to get this episode and this podcast into more ears, hearts, and minds. Until next time, stay centered.